Hans Niemann versus Arjun Erigaisi. Who is he? He's one of the top juniors, just like Hans Niemann, as you can see from this table. We're going to look at two games where they beat each other up, but in very different styles. In the first game, we're going to see it from Hans Niemann's perspective, and then in game 2, we're going to check it out from Arjun Erigaisi's. d4, d5, c4, c6, we have the Slav defense, and after this move, you can get the pawn out, but bishop out first. And now you go e6, a very sensible way. It really is one of the best ways to set up with the black pieces. Very important, you play the pawn move now. Get the bishop out the pawn chain first. Time for white to go bishop hunting. Bear this idea in mind. This might be one of the disadvantages of playing the Slav. Even though the bishop comes out, white can actually grab it. You don't normally put your knight on the edge, but the bishop might be running out of squares. Few options for black. You can go back, but then you can see from the blue arrow you can just grab it. You can go here, hit the queen, but then if you do that, the queen will come out, which we're going to see very soon. Another option played by Niemann is by Erigaisi, is bishop in the center. You can see lots of arrows shown. In this position, f3 is actually one of the best moves. Then you kick the bishop away, and then later we're going to take. But just want to mention this opening trap so you don't fall into it in your own games. You don't want to take. No. It looks good to get the bishop here. The position has a chance to open up. No, it's actually a bad move. You can see the blue arrows. These pawns restrict the knight. The green arrow shows if it's black's move now, you're going to lose a knight. So you've got to play a move like g3, then the knight can retreat and black can strike in the center. This is actually a really good move it's a really good position for black. The knight has to come back later. By the way, it's not about moving the bishop here. Please note, your knight is now trapped. Going back a few moves. f3, kick the bishop away, and then queen out. This is what I was mentioning before. An early queen move in this fashion is good. The bishop is outside the chain, so can't defend this pawn anymore. Queen c7. Attacking the h2 pawn, you might be thinking, what is William talking about? So what? You attack this h2 pawn. Bishop d2. Take. Because when this capture happens, after knight takes bishop, this pawn is now under attack. Castle. At the moment, black cannot capture this pawn because you lose the rook. Here, here, here. Oops. So this capture cannot be played yet. Take in the center. And here I was a bit confused. Why can't you play this move? It turns out it is a terrible move. Really nice tactic in the Slav, which is something I learned when picking this game for you. Now's your chance. Pause the video or just let the timer run. Can you find a brilliant move here for white? Stop the queen defending the rook, knight b5. The queen doesn't actually have a good square on this diagonal, except g3, but doesn't matter. You hit the queen, and there's no chance for the queen to defend. You might be thinking, hang on, take. No, check. You take with check, and then you take the queen. Even that check looks pretty good as well. And then you pick it up. So this is a really nice idea in the Slav, which I've never seen before. a6. Typical strategy in the Slav. Please bear this in mind if you play the Slav with black. Putting lots of pawns, almost every single pawn, 6 out of 7, on the color of your opponent's bishop, just to restrict its scope. King b1. Lots of options here for black. None of them taken. Just get the knight out. On the previous move, notice the king went to b1, rook c1. Bear this idea in mind coming up. h4. So then you stop this capture now. h4 played. c5, strike in the center. Queen out the way deliberately. Capture happens in the center. Very important point. This pawn stops this knight coming in. Now, going back a move, here, why didn't black just go b5 just to get space? Okay, it's just another way to play, fine. Okay, I was wondering why this wasn't taking. Maybe the knight can even come in the center. Take. You tend to get this cluster. It looks so weird in the Slav, but it's actually a way to play. Okay, let's go back to the game. After this move, black took in the center, queen b6, offering a queen trade. If we go back to this moment, very early on, you know I mentioned queen c7, queen b6 is possible. So the queens have a staring contest. But in this position, now we get a staring contest. The queens face each other, but now what? Well, things have changed. The position has opened up. There are no more pawns in the center. So this bishop can be so powerful. Don't trade queens. And that's what Niemann does. Keep the pressure. Keep the pressure. You can see the blue arrow. The queen attacks knight. Black can actually castle, but it just looks so dangerous. g4, h5. You've castled into an attack. So he doesn't castle here. Queen c6, offer a trade. Now you can take, but I thought this is a really cool moment. Bishop b5. Really cool moment here. Because you're using the pin. Queen has to go back to defend the rook, and then bishop back. Well, then queen back. Well, white's actually gained a move. Things now change. Niemann goes into an endgame where he's gained a move because now the bishop's in the game, and a really cool move here, knight a4. Let me explain every arrow. The bishops, both of them are now in the game. So notice this bishop now controls lots of squares on the queen side. The knight, you can see the blue arrows, is also controlling the queen side, and the rook can slide over to c1 to attack the c6 pawn. One move, three functions. Knight d5, rook c1, attack, knight b4. Bishop b4, I mean, cool move. Niemann decides he can't keep the bishop pair anymore. It would be a great decision, a great strategy to keep both of these bishops because the position is quite open now. Can't do it. So the bishops come off, you attack and defend, bishop just retreats, and black is in trouble. a3, just one move, kick the knight away, and then looks like that pawn is going to drop. So black actually played this move, which just looks tragic. It really does look tragic. If you go rook here, a3. When the knight moves, you attack. And white is now completely winning. If you go here, you might be thinking, the bishop here actually works, but I think that's simpler. Just defend, and we're good. Knight here, and then the cool move. Really, really cool move. Now's your chance. Pause the video now, or just let the timer run. Can you find a cool move for white? Bishop to b5. Defend. Defend. Attack. And here, rook d8, you're just going to pin. And the funny thing here is if you go rook c8, you still take it. I love this. Just going to pick it back up. Really cool tactical moment. And when the dust settles, you're just going to be up so much. Two passed pawns, mate. Totally winning. Back to the game. Knight retreated to b8 to defend the pawn. g3, defend the pawn. Knight c5, f4, beautiful move. You might be thinking, so what, it's just a pawn move. With this move, all the pawns now defend each other. This bishop now has a chance to get in the game. One move, two functions. Rook d8, attack the pawn, defend. You can kick this knight away anytime. But Niemann just leaves this knight because you can go after it later. Rook e1, face the king. Future prospects. Key idea here. Key idea. You don't trade. Your advantage is dying. That knight looks pretty strong now. Keep the pressure. White has more space. Retreat the knight. Keep the tension. Retreat. Keep more pieces on the board. Rook e2. Threatening to double. Where? Here? Here? Well, it actually goes to c2. But please note, white is going to double somewhere else. Bear this idea in mind coming up. So let me explain every arrow. You've got a lot of pressure on the c file. The blue arrows show the knight controls the central squares. So does the pawn, and the bishop is slicing the board as well. Beautiful position for white. b3, with this idea of the knight coming in. Now, one option was this, trying to get some pieces off. You can go here or here later, keep the pressure. This was one option for black, but it wasn't taken. Hit the rook. Knight retreats, that was the point. Double. Go back, g4, really cool move. Knight comes back in, you don't want to take. That's the funny thing. This knight is now offside. You've got to play some weird move like this. So then, trying to save the knight. But if you do that, then you've got really ugly doubled pawns. 2 against 1, no, that's not true. Pawns are doubled. Very ugly, and this bishop is incredible. Knight is going to come in the game pretty soon. So really, really cool idea just to sack a pawn. Wasn't taken. Hit the knight, break open a structure. Just want to show you this really cool moment. If you take and then take, what is a brilliant move here for white. Pause the video now. 3 seconds. What is it? It's just checkmate all of a sudden. That was the point of Niemann rerouting the knight, and it's now come back in the game. So that's why Niemann can blow open the position, because black cannot capture. Check. h5. Really cool strategy. Pawns are on light squares. White is also putting pawns on light squares. Trying to break open the structure. This bishop is going to find a way into the game. g5, lock it up. a4. This move, pretty difficult for me to understand. I wouldn't play that move ever. I'd keep it flexible. Maybe 1 square. Because if you go 1 square later, you can go another square. It's too committal for me. King b2. But the point is, the king might slide over. Now, the knight does have a home here. It can land there. If it does, then we actually find a way. Maybe we crash through in the center. There's a bit of pressure here for white. Game goes on something like this. However, in the game, a4, knight in. That's the point. King goes to a3. Later, maybe b4 is possible. Rook d8. Just want to show you. That loses. Pawn defends the knight. Pawns defends the rook, I mean. No, you just remove it. And you've just chucked a pawn. So cool deflection idea there. So black cannot come in. Rook d8. Take. Rook c2. Bishop in. Knight retreats. Hit both, doesn't matter. Just retreat. Keep the pressure. So I've got lots of circles. Why on earth have I done this? Yeah, just want to talk about the comparison of the pieces. So first up, the pawns. Awful. Absolutely awful for black. All split up. All isolated. All of them cannot be defended. The knights. Well, let's look at the minor pieces. This has potential to hop in to c4, e4. I would say the knights are quite well placed. And now the rooks, well, rooks are very well placed for white. They are attackers. If we look at black's rooks, they are defenders. And the king is well placed for white. So that's the overall evaluation of this position. Well, now what? Black tries to break free. Take. Can't take yet, or else rook takes pawn. Rook g8. Knight c4. Future prospects. Green arrows, but the blue arrow is the more important one. We're going to come into e5. Black stops that with knight d7. Remember a long time ago, Niemann doubled on the c file. Not anymore. Time for a switch. Can't go to e file. Switch. Rook h2. Time to find another angle to come in and try to win the game. Take. Rook in. Check. Pin. Rook h1. Before, both rooks were here. Now, we switch it. Rook g7. Couple of options. h7, h8, both look so dangerous. Knight g6, you stop one of these options. Also, at the same time, you attack the bishop. Hit the knight. Knight e5. Here we go again, another key moment just to summarize this position. Every piece, every white piece dominates every black piece. The two rooks, just like I said before, are attackers. These two are defenders. The two knights are now on the back. They are now passive, but you can see white's minor pieces are just so active. There are a lot of potential jumps for the knight, and the bishop just slices the board. Now what? Rook f4. Hit the bishop. Rook h8. Win. If you take. Now's your chance. Pause the video to have a go, or just let the timer run. How to finish it off. Nice finish. Just check. Take. King here, mate. If you go here, you just come back. Knight defends the rook. So it's just game over. Rook h8. Take. Take. Same problem. Can't take because it's mate. c5. Here's another moment. Pause the video now, or just let it run. White to move. What's a really clean finish, and the clue is stop the rook defending the knight. Bishop f5, block it. That's it. Check. Really cool move. Beautiful. 1, 2, 3. You might be thinking, so what? Now here's an even more beautiful move. Check. If you move the king away, you come back. And you remember, 3 moves ago, there was a black pawn there. If we go here, and 3 moves later, it disappears. You might be thinking, now what? Take? That's what was played. Check. Win the rook. Really cool tactical moment. He doesn't take the rook yet, because you lose that one. Really accurate moment. Take with check. Then, king moves somewhere, and then you pick up the rook. Game over. Beautiful endgame masterclass from Hans Niemann. Arjun, Erigaisi's turn. 1 game each. That's what we're going to see in this video. Niemann is setting up the Grunfeld defense. Now's the final chance for black to get Grunfeld. What do I mean? Time for black to strike in the center with d5. If you castle, we get something totally different called the King's Indian defense, and black is going to strike later. However, black struck now. Take, take. Black is giving white the full center. This is called a hyper-modern approach. It looks really good. I mean, what on earth is black doing? Well, hyper-modern means you give white the center and then you strike it. You attack it later with a typical move like c5. The bishop is going to have some pressure in the center. So many ways to respond here, by the way. So many ways. This one, I think that's the main way, to be honest. You can get the bishop out. Queen a4 check is a funny move as well, just to displace some of the black pieces. Check played instead. Knight blocks, castle, and deliberately capturing the knight. Why? Well, just to play an easy position, really. Queen c2. What do I mean? Well, still 2 pawns in the center. Black puts pressure from g4. Don't take. Too dangerous, mate. Too dangerous. You might be thinking, what's he talking about? I've just won a pawn. No. You've lost control. This bishop controls so many dark squares around the king. It's just too dangerous. No. It doesn't even feel like white is down a pawn, because white has so much control. So it's just a typical way to get compensation in a game. You can be down a pawn, but you control so many squares. Knight in. Take, take. We get this transformation. Just want to mention another thing. Take. Hit both. Looks pretty dangerous. No. Same move. Defend the knight. Attack the queen. Queen moves. You can't take this because of this. So you defend first. And then we get this situation where it's the same problem. This is the pawn. Black has that, white doesn't. But white has so much control. It's so difficult practically to play this. Knight e5, take, take. Okay, now what? f4. You're defending your giant pawn center. This is so easy for white to play. Practically, it's a brilliant opening choice by Arjun Erigaisi, one of the top juniors. h3, bishop goes all the way back. Later, maybe this bishop has a chance to get in on the king because you're controlling. This bishop controls so many dark squares. Not right now. King sidesteps. Bishop attacks the rook. Is the rook planning to start a kingside attack? No. Swing. Maybe this is why Arjun kept the bishop on. c1. Hit the queen. Queen trade, not so bad. This position is not so bad for black. By the way, you can't take this way because your bishop was hanging. So Niemann, had to take with the bishop. But you get pinned. How do you resolve this pin? Not rook d8. One way to resolve it was c5. So before I mention that point, can you explain why rook d8 loses? Now's your chance. Pause the video or let the timer run. White to move and win. The winning move is rook b4. Bishop can't be defended. Game over. The guy just lost the bishop. Niemann just lost the bishop. So going back a move, very important option was c5 because, as you can see, the winning move was white getting the rook to b4. And then you pick up the bishop. Rook d8. Rook b4 played. And the guy is now down a bishop. Niemann plays on a little bit. But after this capture, the funny thing is, the rook defends the bishop that hasn't moved. You're going to run the pawn home. Game over. Here's a table between Niemann and Erigaisi. Let me know in the comments. What's the score so far?